So let's move on to our attack animation. And before I start with the references, I want to cover a bit of combat theory and what I feel, in my opinion, are three key pillars and fundamentals that if we apply to any type of like combo, single attack, action shot, it's going to help us deliver something that's going to not only gameplay wise, it's going to function really nice, but also it's going to be visually striking, and it's going to help a lot, you know, like enhancing the experience. So as I said, three pillars for me, they are responsiveness, which involves obviously a really direct communication with design, because gameplay is king, is the priority. So design is going to dictate what type of move we're going to do, and they're going to put some limitations and constraints, and within those we need to deliver something the best possible, especially visually speaking. We need to make every frame count, and we get a really nice feeling. So the attack, for example, if it's a single attack, it has to feel strong, it has to be powerful, rewarding for the player. You know, when you press the button and you play that animation, it has to feel nice. It has to be connected as well. That's, for me, is very key. You know, not only on the player side, you know, when you do an attack and then you have a really nice impact and hit on the enemy, but also on the enemy side, you know, we want that nice hit reaction. So it feels connected, it feels that the momentum is carried on from the player into the enemy. So that's really important. Then second pillar, readability, quite clear, as the name says. Here as well is stated by design. Pretty much the three of them, you know, the basis. We get that from design. So we need to be able to read, you know, the clear gameplay function of what it is. You know, it has to be easy to read. If it's a slash from a sword, if it's a spell casting, if we are throwing an object, all that you need to see that, even without context, you need to know what's going on and what's happening on the screen. That's very important. And obviously, same as with any animation, here is when we need to focus on the strong posing. You know, we want to craft a really nice silhouette, line of action, negative space. Think about like a really cool and stylish pose. So this is very important. You know, this is going to give us the appeal when it comes to the visual part of it. And then third is going to be flow and rhythm. And again, from design, we're going to get the timing, the speed, you know, the type of damage. This is very important as well for us when we are crafting an attack. It's not the same if it's going to be like a quick jab, for example, at the start of a combo. That has to be something quick. Or if it's, for example, the end of a 5-hit combo, that it has to be the grand finale. It has to be something crazy, you know, and deliver the final hit. The distance as well. It's not the same something that just like a quick jab, again, that covers maybe a meter, or something that is going to be like a charge attack or a dash attack that maybe like go and cover like 5 or even 10 meters, you know, if it's something crazy. And obviously, when it comes to flow and rhythm, especially we need to think about that if it's in a sequence, you know, like a combo. We need to think about the order. We need to think about the pacing and the progression. You know, we want to start like quick and then build up that momentum until we get to the last hit. Until that point, has to be something visually striking. Has to be something crazy, you know, because the player got to that point, so we need to reward him visually. So, you know, especially when you see those kind that like super crazy combos, and at the end, you know, those jumps like 360 attacks and stuff like that, you know, it has to be something, is the ending of the combo. Obviously variety, you know, especially if we have only one character and the character has different weapons and different combinations, we want to make sure it doesn't become repetitive. You know, we give enough variety to make it like special, no matter which weapon we use or which combo we use. You know, it has to feel nice. And yeah, and also, for example, something that I really like to think about, especially during combos or sequences, when it comes to flow and rhythm, is like in a musical way, you know, trying to find the beat. You know, for example, if you have 3 attacks, you don't want to keep them evenly spaced when it comes to timing. So I like to think in my head, you know, like a musical beats. Like, for example, if you do boom, 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 that's going to be pretty even, pretty boring, you know. But if, for example, if it's 3 combo, we do boom, boom, boom. We had the 2 quick attacks and then the build up for the last one, and we deliver. So try to find that musicality within the sequence, and that's gonna, it could sound a bit silly, but actually it's gonna help you a lot to try to find that beat and that rhythm, and it's gonna be really nice. And those are pretty much the 3 key points that I always keep in mind when crafting any type of like action or combat animation. And with that in mind, and we're gonna move now into the references, we need to find our key poses. And for that, usually we have 3, including a part of the idle, which is the starting and a lot of time the ending pose, especially if it has to loop. And those 3 poses are the anticipation, the hit frame, this is when we have the impact, when we contact with the enemy, and then we have the follow through, which is probably the pose that you see the most on the screen, because that's when we had that nice hold at the end of an attack. And if it's a single attack, if after that it goes back to pose, or if it's a combo, that's the window you have usually to then like keep connecting through the next stages of the combo. So with that in mind, we want to move into the references, and for this one I actually record myself, and this is going to be a good exercise to see how with the reference we have, we're going to like push it, especially the posing, the timing, change a bit, slightly the footwork, especially when for the jump and the landing and stuff like that. But yeah, let's have a quick look. And here I decide, because the character is like feels like quite heavy with the armor, and it has a big sword, that I'm probably gonna scale up a bit, to make it even bigger. I wanted to think about kind of like a heavy attack. So let's try to find first like a nice initial pose that we're gonna push later on. And I was thinking here, things like character like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, or other character like, example, Nightmare from Soul Calibur, with those big two-handed sword, those big claymores, and how you could hold in a nice position. But probably I'm gonna end up like lowering a bit the center of gravity, but the line of action that clear see, one leg forward, back, and then because we have a nice heavy sword, holding that nicely, potentially will, to break the flat line to make it like holding more like this, could be nice. But yeah, we want to kind of have an idea of what the pose we want to go for. I'm gonna show you the 3 recordings. So I did a couple of takes, to experiment, to see. For example, this one had that like a forward step, which is not too bad. That could be nice. I was trying to play as well, thinking about the big anticipation. This one is another one. There you go. Sorry about that. There you go. It's pretty much the same, but here I felt like, okay, maybe you can do a tiny bit of a jump, because it builds so much momentum from the anticipation that we're gonna carry that and make the character potentially jump. And yeah, then the third one, which is pretty much the same as the second one, and it's the one I'm gonna go for. And yeah, one of the things I wanted to do here is this nice thinking about, like, even if I don't have a big weapon, think about how I could like convey that into the reference. So this nice build up into the anticipation, which is gonna be this pose. So you can see here we have the pose in here that we'll push later. We move into the anticipation. It's gonna be here. We want this really contrast in the line of action. So if here we're gonna push the type of C shape, for anticipation we go into the reverse C shape, as you can see here, leading with this foot and dragging the weapon quite a bit in here. So that's really, really nice, and this is gonna create really big contrast, when it comes to line of action in the character and silhouette. After that, we want to move into the hit frame. We said, so here is gonna be when we connect, we impact the enemy. So the sword here is gonna be contacting with the enemy. We're probably gonna have the arms, going a bit forward and then dragging the sword in here. It's gonna give us a really nice way, because it's a big weapon. And here we pretty much have the foot already planted, as you can see here. Probably gonna lower a bit the center of gravity to give it more weight. And yeah, it's like we have the character quite planted with all the weight there, and then boom, it released the sword. If it was a lighter attack, the mechanics would be slightly different, but this is for this kind of like heavy attack. And then the third pose, which is the follow through. So we talk, this is the end of the attack, and this is the pose that we pretty much see the most at the end. So especially, if we had the camera behind or we had on the side, we want to make, obviously, work in 360, but also keep in mind the camera we're gonna use to enhance that silhouette for that camera. And here pretty much is, as you can see here, the weight, shift a bit forward, the sword finish the swing, after the big arc we have in here, and it's gonna be like a really, really nice pose here behind almost completely behind him, but it's really nice, this type of like curves in here, arms almost straight, especially the right one, it's pretty much straight here, holding the sword heavily. And from there is when we go back into idle, in this case, because we want to make it a single attack that loops. And one of the things I really like to do on the recovery phase, which is this one, is this is the perfect opportunity for any attack, or for example at the end of the combo, to add personality to our character. So here I do extra time, and it's like, okay, we have a really big sword, the sword is far, it's literally on the opposite side of where it has to end, which is here. So let's use this opportunity to do a big drag and boom, and have a really nice settling here. You can see how it lifts the weight with the sword, how it swings the arm, and then we have a nice hold in here and boom, drop the weight. And it's really nice how it kind of like that offset between the hips and the arms, boom, until it settles here nicely. We have this up and down that is bouncy until pretty much disappear and easy into the final pose. Then obviously these are gonna be the key poses that we're gonna use for the blocking, but then obviously if we're gonna go for a more like blocking plus type of like approach, we can then add poses like this one, for example. It's gonna be really nice. We have this nice easy into this is what I would call the anticipation of the anticipation. It's a breakdown that I really like to add sometimes, because it already gives you like a really nice feel of the combo. So here, how we drag the torso down, we do this kind of like circle motion in the torso. If we drag the chest, boom, and then attack, boom. We have a really nice hold in here, and the same really nice big circular motion, and back into pose, boom. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like for the basics, with this type of approach, especially for breaking down a reference, you can use those key poses, anticipation, hit frame, and follow through to apply to any type of attack. Again, we can add, especially if it's more complex, anticipation, or some build up, and then sometimes I like to add as well the right before the hit, so something around here, which sometimes you have the foot already planted, and then it's like the point 1 or 2 frames before, boom, released the hands, it's really nice. And then here, especially during the polish stage, we see how to not have the character feel like rigid and static in here, and have this really nice, like a bit of moving hold, and slightly like offset and stuff and overlap in the entire body during the follow through to keep the character alive for a bit, which again, this is the window where either it goes back into pose like here, or we would press the button again and it would keep connecting into the next attack. So yeah, with all this information, we can move into our blocking.